Greetings, flesh creatures. It is I, Megatron. On behalf of TFYLP, I want to congratulate you for listening to the most refined collected podcast on this miserable little planet Earth. Yes. Here you'll find knowledgeable fans discussing every aspect of Transformers and beyond. Now, enjoy the show while I continue my path to complete conquest of all of you miserable biological entities. Predacons, terrorize!
Hi, welcome to TFYLP, episode 569. We are live tonight. It is Tuesday, March 5th. I'm Lucas. I'm joined tonight by Peter.
Reverdestron.
And Anna.
Good evening, everyone.
And we also have a guest with us, Mike Siebert of Mike Siebert Radio.
Hey, thanks for having me. And before we go any further, not to be pedantic about it, it's Cybert.
Oh, I apologize.
No problem. It happens all the time. It's either spelled backwards or pronounced backwards, depending upon what side of the ocean you're on. Happens all the time, no problem. But I just figured, like, if we the further down we go, it's like I've got a choice. I could correct them up top or just sit with it. And it's like, no, I just figured get it square right off the bat.
Yeah, and I went to school with some Sieberts, and so that's why I apologize. Yep. That's here in Missouri, Kansas, or whatever, that that's how we pronounce it. So,
yeah,
anyway.
Yeah. I have a buddy of mine, Matt Siebert, spelled exactly the same way mine is, Seibert, but his is Siebert, and I think he's from Kansas City area also, coincidentally. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think in the Midwest we're Sieberts, but I guess out here on the Best Coast we're Cyberts. Guess I don't know, but again, thank you so much for reaching out and for having me. This is going to be a lot of fun, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it is con season, right?
Con.
So unfortunately, there will be no book club. Just getting that out of the way this week. No book club because everyone is going to conventions, except for me, I guess. But
same.
Peter.
Same
I was
boat.
gonna say the two of us, we won't be going. But I know Anna, you have your choice, and I guess you made your choice, right? Of which.
Well, yeah,
to go
duh.
to. So.
And it's funny because one of our book club people is going to the Comic-Con in Kansas City, was excited to see all the celebrities and whatnot. But then they just announced that the voice of Master Splinter from Ninja Turtles, who was also in G1 Transformers, is going to be at TFcon. And now he's jealous because that's more of, a general pop culture person. Sure, he was Grapple, but I mean, he was Splinter. That's a big deal, right? So that's cool.
Another Peter.
Right.
It's
yeah.
Peter.
Yeah. And they just announced that today too. And so today's Tuesday, the con starts on Friday. I wonder if they've still got something left in the bag left to announce, because like it's crazy. You look at the schedule, and not to get too far ahead, but like if you look at the schedule, there's still open spots where it's like Q&A with G1 actor TBA. And I wonder if there's still like some October surprises that they're going to throw at us at the last second. This schedule, this lineup is packed. I've been going to TFcon since 2018. I think this is like my 7th, and this is the most jam-packed one I think ever. Certainly within my time going to these conventions.
They went all out for the 40th anniversary. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, the question is who is not going to make it? I'm like looking through the list here, and I mean, boy howdy, that's a
who's
that's a
missing.
list.
I decided after the last time I missed her that the next time they had Sue Blue at one of these conventions, I would finally get a signature from her to go with my now RC shelf I have, which is pretty massive. And she's one of the few commonly booked G1 people who is not on the list so far. I just keep telling myself maybe she'll come out of the woodwork and I'll finally get a signature from her. But Probably not at this point. We'll see. Be cool if it was.
Can I tell a very brief Sue Blue story? Because like
Ooh.
she's terrific and she is a ball of energy. Like, if anybody has seen Sue Blue in person, very, very small in stature, but a firecracker, I would say. My thing that I do for TFcon when I get autographs from folks is I have a Transformers the movie poster. It's the 30th anniversary Blu-ray, the one that Livio Ramadelli did, and that they handed out at the Fathom event screening. So it's the poster from the screening that I actually got from watching the movie. And since 2018, I've been having folks autograph it. And I'm looking to get it mostly completed this time with Frank Welker and a couple other folks. But I met Sue Blue back in Chicago in 2022 for TFcon. And my thing of wanting to get my poster autographed is, an autograph is cool, right? But at the end of the day, it's just ink on paper. I want to have the experience of meeting and connecting with the folks that are so important to this thing that means so much to us. I just, want to shake their hand, make eye contact, and tell them, thank you for being a part of this thing that means something to me and means something to so much of us. And so I roll up to Sue Blue's table. I put down my poster. I give her a pen and, ask her where I'd like her to autograph it. And I go into my short spiel where, like I just said, it's, I just wanted to say thank you. And she does something I was not expecting. She was seated. She was sitting down, and she places her hands firmly on the table and launches herself up out of her seat, gets into my face, and says, "No, thank you. Thank you for enjoying all of this stuff that we've done over the years." And it was something that could have been intimidating ended up being incredibly delightful. Like she was as taken by my gratitude towards her as she was towards me. It was a really, really cool moment, and I will never forget that. She's fantastic.
Well, that's cool. I've never got to meet her yet, so that would be a good experience.
It'll be worth it when you have the opportunity to.
Well, I think overall, and that could be part of the reason why the Transformers conventions have gone on so long and been so successful, is because that group of G1 actors and Beast Wars actors both were just such a special group of people, I feel like, and they love doing conventions, and it's amazing meeting them. And I think that there's not a lot of shows that are like that. I think potentially Star Trek might be another one that comes to mind as well. But like there's not that same thing, and I think that that's part of the reason why it just keeps going on and on and on. And that people want to keep going back and seeing these guys and saying hello every year is because of that, because these people are just so amazing and charismatic.
Mm-hmm. They all seem to be genuine. They are friends themselves, and yeah, the involvement that they've had with the fans has been really, I think it's mutually rewarding. So it's good.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and that's the thing too is I feel like even some of these actors that you meet, and you meet them, you maybe have an interview with them if you're doing a podcast or whatnot, or if you're helping to run a show, and you legitimately become friends with these people to where it's like we have interactions outside of just the show or the convention and all that. And I would have never expected that before I started this previously, right? Like I wouldn't have expected to say that Greg or Paul or like any of those guys were that I could legitimately call a friend. And yeah, like they're just all amazing people. And so, obviously if you're in the Los Angeles area or anywhere close and can make it, The thing that is the advantage of TFcon LA that the East Coast TFcons don't have is that a lot of those guys live there. And so, or they're there for, other types of acting gigs. And so the amount of people that they can book to these voice actors and writers and things like that they can't necessarily get just the same level. I don't know. I would love if, on the East Coast that they could get, Colin and Welker and the rest of the crew, but, it's just not the same as LA.
Yeah, geographically advantageous, I would call it.
Right.
And Lucas, you nailed it with there is a camaraderie between all of the talent, whether it's between like voice actors, comic book artists, whatever. But like, I don't know if you clocked it or not, but like your friendship with these folks is like, we're referring to icons of our childhood by their first names. We're just talking like, about, Greg and Paul and, all these, it's like, it's casual to us. And it's a testament to how accessible and approachable and so good with the fans that these folks are, because there's just as many folks that I feel the same way about. And that is one of the things that makes TFCon and conventions like it, where it's specific themed conventions, that like it has like that hyper focus on one particular thing. For example, I live here in Seattle, and just this last weekend we had Emerald City Comic Con, and that's one of, if not top 5, then at least top 10 pop culture mega conventions. It's gotten super corporate. It's a big Reed Pop show, and they bring in like movie people, like there's like Chris Evans there and all the Doctor Who's and a whole bunch of other stuff. But like, because it's such a large cross section of the greater pop culture, it loses the focus on any one thing. So for example, Emerald City Comic Con is, I'm at my work here in Seattle. I could walk to that convention center, but I bought my ticket to fly to Los Angeles to be with my friends and to connect with this community. That means so much more to me than just going to some kind of faceless corporate mega convention, if that makes sense to you guys.
Yeah, Emerald City is kind of diluted now.
Yeah, I've never really liked the Comic Cons as much. I cut my teeth on anime cons, and anime cons are very local and very friendly and very fan run. And that's also been a big attraction in TFCon and TF Expo we used to have in Kansas City. Like, those type of cons are just more, they're friendly. They're more about the fans and what the fans want. They're not about that corporate feel. They're about just a community coming together, and it's so nice.
Yeah, and I think that those bigger shows, it's something to experience a handful of times, and not to say that I'm not going to, want to go every once in a while, but after you do it a couple times, I think you're like, okay, I'm done. Like, unless they have like, a certain particular talent that you really want to go see their panel, for the most part, it's like I'm going to skip it. Whereas, TFCon, I know a lot of us, like, we've kind of went through the different stages of conventions, where the first thing that you're doing is you're going in there and you're spending all your time in the dealer room. And then you go later and you're spending all your time doing panels and getting autographs and things like that. Then you kind of like move on to, you're really just doing this to get together with your friends. And you're not necessarily yeah, you're probably still looking for toys. You're still probably, like meeting up and doing a couple panels here or there. But a big part of it is being able to go back and kind of see your friends that you only get to see, a couple times a year.
Yeah. Yeah, there's been a few times with like some of those mid-afternoon lunch hangs at the bar, and it's like, hey, do we want to? There's a TFCon going on over there. Do we want to go TFCon? But yeah, it's interesting. Like, as we talk about some of the things that are exciting about this year's convention, it underscores that TFcon is very much like Disneyland. I mean, aside the geography aside, but I mean, like in terms of the amount of activities, like it's impossible to do everything.
Mhm.
And so, the advice I give folks is sit with the schedule, look at the guest list, and just prioritize. One of my mottos is a little bit of planning goes a long way. So make a plan, but then be prepared to throw that plan right out the window. Like you might not get to that panel, you might not get that autograph session, but you need to have a hierarchy of what you want to do, but also have the flexibility to have fun. Like I've seen folks like with like spreadsheets and printed pages and getting stressed out. Like I've run into some of that before where it's like, oh man, I gotta get this all squared away. But like, the biggest advice that I give for folks coming to TFcon, whether it's your first time or your most recent time, is don't forget to have fun. And I think sometimes in the hustle and bustle, we kind of forget to have fun sometimes.
I find myself just wandering the dealer's room for hours with my friends. And one of the funnest things could be like after I've wandered it with one set of friends, then I'll meet up with some other folks and wander it with them. And it feels different because, that first group of friends, maybe into what I'm into, which is mostly modern third party and Legends figures. And then the other group might be into vintage stuff. And they're suddenly, asking me to look for that Pretender figure they're looking for, or that mint G1 in box thing that I don't care about, but it's fun to look for them. And it's a different experience every time you do it. And like you said, even though when you look at the list of the number of things going on, it doesn't feel overwhelming. Next thing you know, Saturday's over and you're trying to budget Sunday.
Yeah
Budgeting, not just monetarily, but like with time. Your budget, like you definitely like Mike was saying, like you have to prioritize. Like he said, have a hierarchy. You definitely have to prioritize what is important to you. What do you want to see? What do you want to get out of it? And I'm to the point now where, I mean, I had a booth this last show, and that was my first time doing a booth at a TFcon, and it was great. Had a fun time, but I didn't get to wander the dealer room at all. I had a panel that I did with Rick, so I had to shut the table down just for that and then run back and forth. But I didn't do my normal shopping that I normally do, which meant I didn't spend any money, which was a bonus, I guess.
That's a victory. Take it.
It is. But I would have rather had some victory toys, additional victory toys,
Sure.
But yeah, definitely prioritize. Take a look at the schedule, see what you want to hit, figure out what's most important to you, and do it. Yeah. And don't be afraid to reach out to people. If this is your first show and you're like shy or whatever, say hi to everyone. Introduce yourself. Put yourself out there. Get a little uncomfortable. And the rewards are exponential.
Absolutely. I had a conversation with Jim Sorensen the other night about the benefit auction for Bill Forster. We're going to talk about it a little bit. But like one of the things that he mentioned on my show was like, that community of friendship. And it's a great opportunity to connect with old friends, but it's a great way to connect with new friends. Like if you see somebody who has like a t-shirt that you like or something like that, point it out. Or like a button or a piece of art or just something to break the ice a little bit. We're plenty friendly folks, and whether it's TFYLP or my show or any number of Transformers related show, the theme that we say over and over again is like we're a friendly fandom, and we love interacting with folks, especially in a convention environment. Something I picked up on in the last TFcon I went to, which was Orlando in 2023, was a buddy of mine named Andy, who did all of my graphic design and art, a terrific artist, but he had a pack of those Staples Hi, My Name Is badges, the stickers. So I ran around with a badge sticker that just says, "Hi, I'm Mike Seibert." And the amount of people that would roll up to me and just read the badge and say, "Hi, I'm Mike Seibert." And it was folks that I knew, but after a while, I realized it was folks I didn't know also. And we were like a couple back and forths into a conversation before I realized I was like, oh, I don't know this person and they don't know me. They just thought my badge was kind of funny. So even little stuff like that, just to break the ice. Get a little bit out of your comfort zone. Find like big mingling spots, like the lobby. Like if you're under 21 and can't go to the bar. It's kind of an all ages kind of teen friendly show. Like the lobby scene, I would say, is just as hopping as the bar scene. So there's a little bit for everybody. But yeah, like find a crowd, and as you're like perked up and actively listening, you're going to find an entry point. Like it'd be like, oh, did somebody say something about victory? Well, hey, does your victory saber have that same scuffing on the gold chrome that mine does? You can find those commonalities on the quick, because there's a ton of people, and again, we're very friendly.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I mean, there's also the, I guess, quote unquote room parties too, where people will trade things. The same. I can't remember. So I went to TFcon LA. I think it's been a few years now. Like I went to the first one. I don't recall if it's a similar scene as what the East Coast TFcons are or not. If they have as many. Sorry, go on.
From what I've heard from Catherine for the last couple of years, the room party or parts party or whatever you want to call it scene. Yeah. So it's basically after hours, people open up their hotel rooms, decide to try to sell things, trade, whatever. I've heard that scene at TFcon LA is not as strong as it is at the more East Coast centric shows. It's a little bit weaker. I think people tend to actually go out and do stuff in the evenings at this particular event, and they don't stay in their hotel rooms and trade and sell as much. I'm sure there will be some people. There's also a culture of posting sell lists on bulletin boards. There'll always be a bulletin board down by the main lobby that will have a place for you to post sells. And, you can look through that, and maybe you didn't find it on the dealer's room floor, but maybe it's sitting in someone's hotel room. They'll put their cell phone number on the bulletin board with a price and the toy. You call them up and say, hey, you got so-and-so. I still do. You stop by their room and pick it up. It's kind of a selling. We've talked about this several times on the show, but selling is part of Transformers culture. If you're a part of the buying culture in Transformers, eventually you will become a part of the selling culture, unless you're just like the strongest willpower person that you never buy something you don't really need, or you never change your mind. You're going to eventually be part of the selling culture, and that is alive and well. But I would say the room party scene is just not quite as strong at this, from what I've heard. I'll tell you more when I get back next week.
Yeah, that's been my experience as well. Like I think my first TFcon was Chicago in 2018, and the next one was the first TFcon LA. And Lucas, you saying that you were at that show. It's so funny. Like as I get more connected in the fandom, there's all of these near misses of folks that I just did not see, did not know. Like it seems like TFcon Toronto 2019 was like a big nexus point of folks that I would go on to know later. They were all there. Some of them were even in the bar when the Cybertronics Free showed up. And like, I had like one guy that I knew there, but like years later, it's like, oh yeah, I was there. And we're comparing pictures. I'm like, oh my God, you were like 3 people to the right of me. It's so crazy that like, even after all these years and you meet new folks in the fandom, how small the world actually is.
Absolutely. Well, one thing I felt like when I went to that first show is it was the first experienced Transformers show for a lot of those folks. And so I'm sure, now I think this is the 3rd one in LA. Great.
I think it's the 4th, because they did 2019, then COVID happened. Then they did one in 2021. I went to that one, and it was kind of lame because it was still kind of like post-COVID. We don't quite know what's going on. Like the bars and restaurants closed really, really early. I think we were still wearing masks at that point. And then they did it in 22. I didn't go to that one. And now now we're back for 24.
Okay. So yeah, that's where I felt like going to that first one that, potentially part of the reason they didn't have as many parts parties then is that it's like people's first shows, they don't even know what to expect. And so, and of course every kind of show develops its own culture. But yeah, so like that may have been part of it too. But yeah, that was the really cool thing to see at that time is all of these people that are just first experience a convention. And so, hopefully they, kind of keep growing and growing that. And I really love that space, out there in LA too. Like, it's nice that they have that convention center separated from the hotel. And so it can be a little bit bigger. 'Cause like, I feel like some of the East Coast shows have been a little cramped over the years.
Yeah.
Yeah, that last one in Chicago was just, it was barely breathable a year and a half ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that show was sad. You're thinking of the 2022 one?
Yeah, the 2022 Chicago show, yeah, because it was so full, right? Lucas and I brought stuff to sell together, and we were swamped. We both pretty much sold out of everything we brought, but we couldn't move in that dealer's room. It was just so full of people. I didn't even want to shop.
Yeah,
I ran over.
I think that was the Peter Cullen effect. It was the combination of Peter Cullen and it being kind of post COVID. Like, it felt like that was the first one I felt like, oh, we're back. Where it's like, because you could not move in that dealer room. That hotel where the Chicago one takes place is not necessarily my favorite. Like the Visibility Bar never reopened after COVID. The Bill Murray Caddyshack Sadness restaurant closed like super early. They just did not. They either didn't want us there or didn't know what to do with us. Like between like the hotels and restaurants and all that. But I didn't realize this, and I don't know if you guys knew this. I had been to that convention twice before, had no idea that across the parking lot, there's like an entire retail hub over there with like restaurants and movie theaters and comedy clubs. And it's like you walk through, I'm like, oh my God, where was this the whole time? Like we had dinner at the Sugar Factory and one of like the bar pubs that was there. I mean, like it's a really cool complex, but like if you don't know the lay of the land out there in Rosemont, you'd have no idea. It's crazy.
It's funny. I've been going to Rosemont for ages because I used to go to Anime Central, which is in Rosemont at the actual Donald E. Stevens Convention Center, which is the big convention center, which is definitely where they should move TFcon back to in future years. But I never knew about that area until 2022, where the comedy club and the restaurants and everything were, even though it was pretty close to where I usually stay for ASEN. I would just, walk down to the McDonald's and the freaking scary Denny's and Waffle House that are down the street instead of going to this perfectly nice little, as you said, strip mall restaurant area there. So it's cool to know about that now. For the next time it's in Chicago, which is who knows.
My guess would be 2025 if I were to guess, because we're
doing Baltimore.
We know it's Baltimore, exactly. So I would think that it's that. And I think that's what the schedule they've locked into seems to be. It's like LA is a smash hit success. I would imagine that if they don't continue to do it every year, they're going to do it every other year. I remember back in 2019 thinking it was, I remember telling my wife, I was like, oh, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity to get all of these people in one place at the same time. 2 years later, I was like, I want to go back again because they're having it again, a once in a lifetime thing again. And then 3 years later, it's another once in a lifetime thing again.
You're like, honey, you won't believe it, but once again, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity.
Yeah. Well, and she has the best line and the best attitude about this stuff, because I was like, oh yeah, like a couple years ago I was buying up like 35th anniversary stuff for the movie, and like obviously this is the 40th anniversary of the franchise as a whole for 2024 here, and she's like, it's always an anniversary for something. And she's absolutely right, because 2 years from now, we'll have the 40th anniversary of the movie. And I'm sure like the cycle is just going to start all over again. It's always an anniversary for something.
Yep.
And I think the big show effect, the once in a lifetime effect, is going to keep happening. I'm going to say a kind of morbid thing here. I apologize, but it's going to keep happening until either Welker or Peter Cullen die. When one of them passes away, we won't be able to have this once in a lifetime thing. So it's always going to feel pressing to see them one more time before, we're talking about voice actors in their 80s, right? We're definitely getting to the point where their mortality is going to catch up to us eventually. So let's keep going. Every time they appear, we're going to feel like, ooh, I finally have to go see them. You might have someone shy like me who has a lot of trouble going up to voice actors and getting a signature, but eventually talk yourself into it. You might have your last chance. That's why I was saying, if I'm going to get a signature from Sue Blue, I want to do it, because she is also not really young, and the older you get, the more chance of bad things happening. And I would like to see her once, like you said, ball of energy. I've heard that many times. And I want to meet her. And it's just always going to be that, potential last chance, potential once in a lifetime. That's really going to keep us going.
Yeah. Well, I talked about my poster earlier, and one of the signatures on there is Jack Angel, who's not with us anymore. And so there is a bittersweet reality to that. You're absolutely right, Anna. And it feels like to me in the last couple years, maybe 2-3 years, where we're seeing Welker and Cullen in tandem doing more of the convention circuit. Like when I started going to TFcons, I was convinced I was never going to see those guys at a TFcon. I always thought I was going to have to throw down for some MegaCon or something like that, like go to like a San Diego or like a Las Vegas or something like that. So when Peter Cullen was announced for Chicago 2022, I mean, I was already going to go to that show, but like, I mean, that changed my entire outlook. And conversely, the same thing with Frank Welker coming here to LA, and it's just like, oh, I am definitely doing this, because like you said, Anna, you don't know how many more chances you're going to get, and life is too short, unfortunately.
Well, thanks, Anna. Now I have FOMO, but I can't do anything about it because I already have other plans. So
yeah.
I
wish if you really wanted a signature, you do have a friend who lives close to you who's going to go to the event. So
well, I think as Mike said, I mean, to me, the importance not necessarily a signature; it's really more meeting them.
It's the interaction.
It's the interaction more than it is the signature. So yeah, because I've never seen Welker myself, so I was able to see Cullen at the Chicago show, but yeah, hopefully he Frank can make it out to another TFcon and I can see him. So
yeah.
But yeah, this lineup is just crazy. I guess reading through the guests, right? So I mean, we already mentioned Cullen and Welker, right? So of course from the G1, Dan Gilvezan's going to come as well.
Sweet guy.
What's that?
He's a really sweet guy.
Oh yeah, Dan's great as well. Greg Berger is going to be there too. Hal Rail is going to be there.
He's so cool.
Who else we got? Jerry Hauser. And does Jerry Hauser, like, does he do a lot of conventions? I don't recognize his name as much as doing shows previously.
Negative. Not to my knowledge.
Yeah.
At least not
not often.
Stuff. Yeah.
No.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then I guess Joe and probably butchered the last name. Is it Lehigh? The
I
voice of Razor
think
Claw?
so. Yeah, I think so.
And then John Machida is going to be there as well. And has he done any shows, Transformers shows
He
recently?
Oh, not recently. I don't know. I saw him at BotCon 99 or 2000, maybe
Right.
2001. I don't know, somewhere in there.
He was at LA in 2021.
Okay.
I don't know if he made it to 22. I didn't go to that one, but I saw him at 2021.
Mm-hmm. And then Lori Faso is going to be there as well. Michael Bell is going to be there, and he's great as well.
Mm-hmm.
Voice of Prowl. Michael Horton, who's the voice of Chip Chase.
He's a very, very sweet guy. And Peter, I don't know if you were going to tell a similar story, but like he went to TFcon in 2019, and that was his first ever Transformers convention. He had no idea about any of this subculture. Like I coincidentally just ended up sitting next to him in the bar. And like, you know, he was just getting a drink and appetizers or whatever. And I kind of did like a double take. I'm like, are you Michael Horton? And he, you know, talked to me about how just like he wasn't prepared for like the outpouring of love from the fans. Like he didn't realize that the character of Chip Chase had resonated with like so many fans, and that he heard so many fans of so many different ages, you know, saying like, you know, that the famous line, you know, no one's disabled as long as they have courage. You know, it's like, you know, and just like it, I could tell it was really affecting him. But like, I'm so glad to see him come back again. His handler was Proto Man, and that dude was smart enough to get like a stack of 5 1/4 inch floppy disks. So I have a 5 1/4 inch floppy disk autographed by Michael Horton and a picture of him trying to like tear it in half. It's great. He's an awesome dude.
That's awesome.
Did you guys know that Greg Berger is from the birthplace of a very important TFYLP cast member, aka me? Because he's from St. Louis. And when I picked him up for the airport for TF Expo that one year that Lucas and everyone asked me to take care of it, we drove in the car and talked about St. Louis style pizza, which most humans hate. But it was so cool to be able to talk to Grimlock about a love of St. Louis style pizza after my childhood of eating this pizza everyone else thinks is gross. That was just a great moment.
Well, can we tangent for a sec? So here I'm on the West Coast, and we have, you know, a few different types of pizzas. You know, we've got like, you know, California style pizza, or I like Detroit style pizza with like the big thick crust and all that other stuff. But like, what is St. Louis style pizza? I got to know.
I'm going to describe it because Lucas will describe it. He used the word gross multiple times, which he would be wrong if he did that. So St. Louis style pizza is like a very thin crust. People call it cracker thin. It's usually quite thin. It's crispy on the bottom if it's cooked well. Then the sauce is a little bit spicier than most pizza sauce. It really veers away from the sweet into the spicy. And then the cheese on it, instead of that usual mozzarella blend, is a Provel, which is kind of the saltier cheese. It's a very salty kind of different tasting. The meats on it, like the sausage, is always spicy as well. It just has a little more spice to it, a little more salt to it. Definitely a flavor that no other pizza has because of the Provel.
So to circle back to Provel, because most people outside of this area don't know what Provel cheese is.
Right. That was going to be my next question.
It's amazing. Garbage cheese. So what you do is it's a combination of mozzarella, what is it, American cheese, and what's the...
Provolone.
Provolone, yeah. So mozzarella, provolone, and American cheese. So if you want to, if you enjoy putting slices of Kraft American cheese on your pizza, that's kind of what it's like.
No, it is not like Kraft American cheese. It is an abomination of cheese that you can get nowhere else. It is too perfect. It's the perfect abomination. I have heard that non-St. Louisans think that Provel cheese tastes very similar to feet. I'm really curious why people outside of St. Louis eat feet more often than we do, apparently. However, that's what I've been told it smells like and tastes like. I think it tastes delicious.
Yeah, you're really like, making this sound appetizing, Anna.
You're really selling it.
That's all I am. That's all I am. I like to make it appetizing.
You're like, no, I wouldn't say that it's as good as American cheese. No. It's more like a feet consistency.
It's delicious. It's a perfect cheese. I like it a lot.
Yeah.
And Greg
I'm
Berger
gonna have to
likes
give it a day in court. That sounds great.
Yep.
So yeah,
So,
I don't know if they have an
exclusives.
Emos. That's pretty much right. The going back to the pizza. If you ever see an Emo's pizza, that's St. Louis style pizza.
Gotcha.
So, but yeah, I guess I didn't get through all of the guests. I guess too. There's still like another like dozen guests as well. So, just real quick, Michael McConaughey, Morgan Lofting, Neil Ross, Paul Eiding, and of course Peter Cullen, Peter Renaday, and then musicians we got Stan Bush, Vince DiCola, we've got Bob Budiansky, we've got Buzz Dixon, Flint Dilley. So yeah,
writers,
Ron Friedman,
musicians,
there's like every writer, and then of course all the comic artists as well, the normal crew.
Yep.
Andrew Griffith was at
I will say
Emerald City, I think, over the weekend.
That's correct. Yeah.
A really cool keepsake to get if you're ever like at TFcon, you want something unique, is if you get there early enough to find one of your favorite artists from the IDW era, especially, and ask them to do a commission while you're at the con. Ask them to do something small for you on a small sheet of paper, something specific, a character you love to see them draw, a character you've always wanted to see them draw. It's a really cool keepsake to have. I have a few up on my wall behind me here, and it's just a nice thing to have because it's like no matter what you have them draw, it's one of a kind, and it's something from a favorite artist of yours. I just think it's a really cool keepsake to have.
One thing I will mention about that is that you might follow them on social media ahead of time, and because a lot of times they'll open their commissions prior to the show. And their list actually will fill up. And so just kind of depending on how busy it is, how many commissions they're taking, they may already have their list full. So that's something to kind of check out ahead of time if you're going. What were you going to say, Mike?
Oh, I was going to say literally the same thing. I was going to say Anna has a really cool strategy and perspective there. I never thought of that because, like you were saying, Lucas, I follow all these folks on socials, and like as soon as like comms open up, it's like, so I've gotten pieces from Levio, from Andrew, from Casey Collar, Jack Lawrence, and all that other stuff, and so it's an equally cool feeling. Because, yeah, an original piece of art is something like they made for you. It's a very special bond that you have, like this one of a kind piece that they made for you. But yeah, so I go the scheduled commission route where they'll usually have it done before you get there, just hand it off to them. When I was in Orlando, I had commissioned Josh Perez to do a riff on my wife's original character of her Jeep. You may have seen her on Twitter. It's like anytime you see a blue Jeep, it's from it's something I've commissioned. But anyway, like he ended up giving it to me done at 6 o'clock in the morning, Monday morning in the hotel lobby. Like, I'm like, I got my bags packed. I'm ready to go. And he's like, no, I just want to do a couple more passes on it and stuff. And it's a phenomenal piece. But yeah, I mean, these folks put their heart and souls in there. And, it's like I doubt we're going to talk about like, prices of stuff, because stuff like this is kind of priceless. And I look at it as whether I'm paying for autographs from celebrities, voice actors, or whatever, or getting commissioned art, or buying stuff off Artist Table. It's a way to support the folks that have given you joy. So it's like I'm a huge fan of like buying stuff. Like I'll buy comic books off of people's tables that I already have at home, just to like buy their comp, so that like, it supports them, because that goes straight in the artist's pocket, instead of just like, haggling or whatever, finding stuff on the floor.
Well, and I will say that a lot of times I do feel like the pricing at TFcon is a little more reasonable for, just artist commissions or the art that they're selling and such, just because it's not as huge of a show as like some of those big ones like Emerald City or, Kansas City, the Planet Comic-Con, or San Diego, whatever it may be, it's a little more reasonable, even though, obviously, like you said, you're supporting them, by paying for that. But
Agreed.
Peter, you had said something earlier about exclusives. I thought I heard.
Oh, I wasn't sure if we were done with the list of
yes,
the guests.
I'm done now.
It's a big list. It's fine. I appreciate you running through the list, Lucas. But I do know that there is another list, and that is of exclusives that are going to be dropping over the weekend, and a few have been trickling in over the last few days. So who has that list? Because I don't.
It's kind of just started, though. That's kind of the thing about it. I think there's only 2 so far, right, that have been officially dropped. Typically, there's more than 2, right? Typically, we have certain companies that almost always do exclusives. So Fans Hobby almost always does an exclusive. MMC almost always does an exclusive. Make Toys has been doing an exclusive seeker for years. I have a feeling that they're just going to start making up colors sooner or later. They're just going to pull out things that never actually happened in G1 and just keep doing those seekers forever.
There are so many animation errors. There's so many animation errors involving seekers specifically. Any of them are official. Any of them are canon animation characters. Just give them a name.
Well, and that meteor mold is terrific also. So it's like, if you want to make more of it, that's fine. It's fine. So yeah, I got no problem with that. But yeah,
pretty good.
So they do have 2 exclusives that they posted so far. One is the Fans Hobby Wingman, which is the latest in the series of the European Transformers. They riff on that. There he is. There's his mold buddy there.
Here.
Nice.
He's in that like purplish pink color. That obnoxious G1 European exclusive ridiculous color scheme.
I love it. That the hits of green on it too. He's hefty and has a hefty price tag to go with it. He's $160 and limited to 600 pieces. That's going to be at the Chosen Prime booth. And I get the feeling like they probably won't go fast, but they will eventually go by the time the weekend ends. In Orlando, I picked up Marksman, the other exclusive, and man, those Predators are awesome. I mean, it's like they're a terrific set. They look great. So I'm gonna pick that up. I really like it. Just today, earlier this afternoon, before we jumped on, they announced the MMC exclusive. It's the part of the Ocular Max Remix series. They're calling it Harmony, and it's a repaint of the Eject Rewind mold. And I know this is a riff on a different character, but I don't know who it is. It's white and pink and red.
It's Flip Sides.
Oh, okay.
A very obscure lady cassette character.
Not obscure.
Oh yeah, it's not obscure. I'm sure people outside of our level of circles totally know who the heck Flip Sides is.
I promise you I don't.
Totally.
LOL. But the toy looks great, and that's a fun mold as well. So yeah, that's I don't know if I'm gonna pick it up, but it looks cool.
There's not many. So in classic Transformers, right, there's not a whole lot of female characters that have really mattered throughout the years, and there's very few cassette characters. Lots of people love the cassette characters who go with Soundwave and Blaster. Very few of them are women, right? So Flipsides and Rosanna tend to be the two that really represent women in the cassettes, and it's cool to get a Flipside because from the last convention exclusive, we got the reformatted version of Rosanna that came with the Chrome Dome they turned into Cheetor, into Transtech Cheetor. And now we're getting Flipsides, which never really expect to get Flipsides, right? Because I think we've, other than the one made out of the G1 mold, we just got the KFC one. And if you haven't played with your KFC cassettes in a while, they haven't aged very well, the original KFC cassettes. So having a better Flipsides, cool. And I'm pretty excited for it. There were also pictures. So before the official pictures came out today, I believe yesterday, unofficial pictures came out of Flipsides Rosanna. So the question is Rosanna going to be revealed tomorrow or the next day? Will she be used at the next con? Or were those pictures just a trick to get me too excited? Because the more Kiss Players characters I get, the better my life is.
Well, I'll say Ocular Max or MMC or whomever have used Digibashes before to gauge interest in what will eventually be an exclusive. So even if it was just a Digibash, the faux 2-pack from the other day, it might be a portent of things to come in the remainder of 2024 shows. Here's hoping.
You're right, Peter. It could be. Yeah, because that mold, like if you don't have the rewind or eject mold from MMC, that Ocular Max mold, it is so freaking good. Like I really love it. Like most of their cassettes, with the exception of Steeljaw, have been pretty good. But this one in particular, like I was telling my friend Catherine, who's also on the show the other day, that thing takes like a minute to transform, right? Like you have your like masterpiece level detail, full typical audio cassette size. It's really simple to transform. The only thing it's missing from modern articulation is ankle tilt, and it looks so good both as a cassette and as the robot. Like it's just a really good feat of engineering. It's something that didn't get too complicated, but accomplishes everything you wanted to. It's fun to own, fun to play with. So it's definitely an exclusive that I am getting that.
Nice. Very cool. I mean, I don't see why they wouldn't do Rosanna at some point, probably this year. But I mean, if I was a betting person, I would say probably not at this con to do the 2-pack and just to stretch that taffy. Exactly. Like, because I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, but like they didn't put out Chrome Dome and Rewind together. Like, you had like the swappable hands, but like they didn't even come out at the same time. I think they made you wait for them. I would imagine
a 2-pack.
Oh, okay.
But there were convention exclusive decos or heads or something, right? At Toronto or
So
maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
The convention exclusive heads for Rewind and Eject were the Ocular Max ones, right? So the Ocular Max
are the reformatted ones.
Convention exclusive heads. The reformatted one was the one that came in a 2-pack with Chrome Dome, or in a 2-pack with Cheetor if we're talking Rosanna. Okay. This one that's being released as Flipsides is the Ocular Max one that in the past did come with convention exclusive heads. So I have a feeling she'll come with a head pack, even though it hasn't been advertised, especially since the price tag on her at the con is $90. And when these are sold more in stores later, they're usually $75. So I have a feeling, she'll probably come with something to kind of, make the pack a little more exciting for us. But this will be more of the G1 style as a cassette, not IDW style as a data drive or whatever the heck they call them.
Data slug or data something stick.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
Unfortunately, the reformatted rewind turns into nothing. Right, they didn't really do a good job of making him look like anything in his alt mode. He's just kind of the thing I think he most looks like is the weird sprites they used in the Atari 2600 version of Donkey Kong for one of the monsters. I think he looks like one of those, which is not a compliment because those didn't look like anything. I think they were supposed to be snakes, but that's what he looks like to me.
I mean, he somewhat forms into a rectangle.
It is a rectangle.
So...
That is true. It has some definition. Yeah, these are good exclusives so far. The colors, the bright pinks, are really overrepresented in this year's exclusives so far. I like that to be a theme. Let's keep going with it.
Well, I was going to ask what your level of excitement with these exclusives are. Sounds like it's pretty high.
I loved the Buster mold, the first of the Dreadwind guys. Mm-hmm. But the Hydra mold I find a little more frustrating to transform. So I'm not going to be getting that one, but I'm getting the crap out of the cassette. And if they happen to do two, let's say they also go, well, this is a good time for us to do Ramhorn as well. I would buy that as well. They could release 3 exclusive cassettes and I'd probably buy them all. I'm glad that my husband isn't listening. Anyway.
Well, at least that the cassettes probably fit more easily into luggage on the way home, right?
That's a big consideration for me this year is I'm trying to get rid of some of the bigger pieces of my collection. Yet here I am with this guy being pretty new. I'm trying to get rid of some of the bigger pieces of my collection. So I'm going to limit myself to basically the cassette guys being the biggest thing I get. And then from there on, it's Legends.
Yeah.
Of note, the cassettes, especially the Ocular Max ones, are really good airport fiddle bots because you can slip them right into a pocket and play with them, when you're sitting there at your gate or whatever. I've had that experience multiple times. It's been great.
I love it. That Fans Hobby box is so big too. Like I got 2, one for me and my buddy over in UK, and it took up like a third of my luggage. So big.
Yeah, I remember when that first TFcon LA, they released one of the Meteor, but it was the G2 version, and it came with a full size the
blister pack,
blister pack or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And for the life of me, I just barely got that into my suitcase. And I had a full size carry-on suitcase, but just the way that packaging was, it was so huge.
The dimensions on it were just so unwieldy.
Yeah.
I loved the nod on that one. It was wonderful. It was chef's kiss of nostalgia, but it was so big. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So big.
So, but yeah, we'll have to see what other exclusives they, throw out there, too. So I'd assume there's going to be a Legends exclusive, right?
I wouldn't say that's a guarantee. I think it's more likely we'll see Make Toys, Planet X, or maybe even an X Transbot style thing. I could see them being more likely than the Legends companies. I think we've only seen 1 or 2 New Age exclusives in the past and not a whole lot more, unfortunately, on the Legends side, which is probably fine. I mean, can't have too many exclusives, right?
It's true. And we've got a few days left, and we've seen exclusives be revealed as late as the morning of Saturday. So,
Well, look when they...
I remember the same story, but when they early released that Run figure, the MMC Run, that they did.
Yeah, that's right.
We found out about that. Me, Catherine, and our friend Flock, we found out about that figure while we were in line for the exclusives. We found out it was actually there. It was like, what? It's there. We all had it on freaking pre-orders, so we couldn't pick it up there. And yeah, so they have done it really darn late, letting us know what the exclusives are.
And sometimes it comes down to shipping, like supply chain issues and things like arriving on time, so sometimes out of the control of the companies that are putting forth the exclusives and the convention organizers and booth organizers and all that fun stuff. So just things to consider.
Well, the other thing, as we're speculating about what an exclusive could be, the late dropping exclusive I'm thinking of was Joker that they did in Orlando. In fact, actually, that redeco. Even on the website, they didn't reveal the face sculpt until like after the convention. Like I ran into some folks on Friday that got him like asking about the face sculpt because it wasn't anywhere, and like that figure was revealed way late. And I wonder if MMC is going to continue with this vague Batman theme, because you've had two go at it with the Senator Ratbat mold with Batman, and what a fun figure that is. But now you've got Joker, and I wonder if they're going to continue with that theme, and maybe we're going to get like some other Batman villain, or it's like they've accidentally landed on a theme here, because like, we talked about, the Ocular Max cassettes, but like, we don't necessarily see anything from Reformatted or MMC here.
Well, and
I'm
MMC
actually wondering,
released a Deadpool as well, redo, like, from the Drift.
From Drift, yeah.
I'm actually wondering, since they used the Chrome Dome for Joker, did they also produce his buddy? Because he was packed in with the Rewind. When they did Cheetor, they did Rosanna as well. So maybe they split them up, and we're going to get a surprise, someone made out of that data slug thing that might still be in the Batman theme. They could twist it up and be like, okay, we're going to use the data slug guy, but we're not going to make him Harley Quinn like people thought. We're going to instead make it Robin or something. That could be a fun way to get that out, to surprise us and to continue their little Batman game. I would like that. I wouldn't buy it, but I would like it.
I just appreciate the balls on MMC, where it's like we're going to infringe on two different copyrights at the same time. Come at me. Yeah, I bought those Batman figures just for the sheer audacity that they exist. I love it.
I'm sure they're like, what are you talking about? This is not
right,
Batman. Like, this is, So I don't know. Yeah, I'm sure the leaps that they try to make on some of that stuff to say, oh no, this is transforming robot guy. So
that's another surprise we got at the last minute last year at the LA Con, is we got our freaking Fans Project exclusive back from the grave, right? Because Fans Project hasn't put out new figures or new molds in years. And they were like, oh, guess what? We're doing G2 tiger colored yellow with ugly blue stripes Grimlock. You should totally buy it. I totally did. And then next thing you know, Hasbro was like, we're going to do this too.
Yeah.
They had to get another Fans Project.
The Fans Project guys, like, they had to have gotten like some type of a thing on that, right? Like someone from the factory said, hey, Hasbro's releasing this. If you're going to do it, you better do it right now.
Sometimes they feel like that, absolutely. So what else do we have going on at the show? Moving away from exclusives, I'm going to hand it over to Mike.
Oh, sure. Yeah, we could talk about the schedule a little bit. There's a couple things I'm particularly excited about. For TFcons of the past, we know that Friday is generally kind of a sleepy day. You know, it's like you get in, you get registered, you get your wristbands. Maybe you run into a couple friends at the bar. Maybe Colin's going to come out and do some opening remarks. And then, you know, usually you'll get like a Flint Dille 5 hours of darkness type of thing where we're just going through that whole 5-parter. It is one of my first TFcon memories, and it's one that I will never forget. That dude went so long into the night that I tapped out. I was so tired. It was like 2:00 in the morning. I'm like, this is really interesting, but I flew it today and I'm really tired. I'm going to tap out. And apparently he went for like another hour or so. Madness. But anyway, so for TFcon LA 2024, I was really surprised to see like this rock power block of content programming that they have. Little peek behind the curtain. I had asked the TFcon folks if they were having a podcasters roundtable, and I had said, well, if nobody else puts in for it, I will host it. Because there have been just as many TFcons that have happened where a podcaster panel doesn't happen, and it turns out because nobody put in for it. So wanting to participate, I wanted to make sure that there was something on the book. So I tell my friends I accidentally volunteered to host it, because that wasn't necessarily my intention, but that's kind of what happened. But so, you know, the registration starts at 5 like usual, but then at 6:00 there's a 3D printed Transformers panel hosted by Mike Seifert. I don't know him, but I've seen his stuff in the groups, and it's phenomenal. As a fan, I'm looking forward to that panel. And then at 7, it's the Podcasters Roundtable. Anna, if you're around, you're more than welcome to hang out and participate with us. Because talking a little bit about the kind of way TFcon works, because like I've seen a lot of discourse about like, well, oh man, there's a YouTubers panel, but nobody asked me. I'm a YouTuber. Mm-hmm. All of this stuff is the TFcon organizers are fans just like us. And this is, I think we lose track sometimes that this is a fan convention put on by fans, and not everybody knows everybody and gives consideration to everybody. So if we want a podcaster roundtable to happen, we need to put in for it and be responsible for organizing it. If you want a panel with your YouTuber friends, get a group together and put in for it, because the convention doesn't do this for us. You know, it's a little bit like, you know, if you want to fish, learn how to fish, that kind of thing, because the convention organizers are more concerned with making sure that there's space for the talent, the voice actors, the writers, and that they have adequate space. And I would imagine they go through what's left time-wise and say, oh, okay, well, this guy that put in for a podcast roundtable, we'll put him here. Evangelist wants to talk about collecting toys. Let's put him here. You know, it's kind of unscientific from my observation, but I guess that's just my commentary on, I guess, gatekeeping. So it's like, because I've received some criticism for like the folks that are going to be on my panel. It's like, well, why not this person? Why not that person? I'm like, I don't know them. So it's like, it's really just folks that I know that I've reached out to in my circle. So if you ever see that at a convention where you feel like somebody's being excluded, it's probably because they haven't made those connections yet. So that's just kind of my weird PSA on that. But like, I'm really excited for the Podcasters Roundtable. There's going to be like a dozen or so of us. It's going to be madness, but we've got like prize bags set up. It's open Q&A. I'm calling it Ask Us Anything, the Podcasters Roundtable. You can ask us questions of, fandom related questions, toy related questions. And between those of us that are going, we've got enough like swag and merch. It's like, stickers and mini prints and buttons and things like that, to where you're going to get a hefty bag of branded podcast swag. Like I've got some buttons I threw in there. But it's just something to give folks to keep them engaged. But really, we're thinking like with the amount of podcasters that we have, we've got pretty much every spectrum of Transformers fandom covered. And, hopefully that keeps the audience engaged and interested and excited. That's going to be a ton of fun. But I did not learn this until last Friday. We're actually the opening act for the live benefit auction for Bill Forster. And I'm not sure who in the audience might not be familiar, but Bill Forster collaborates with Jim Sorensen often. Like they co-wrote the ARC books, the Allspark Almanac, the Legacy, package art book. And between the two of them, they've done a lot of like scanning and restoration and preservation of all kinds of everything you could think of, like box art, packaging art, old scripts, production art, you name it. Anything that has gone into those thick phone book size tomes. That's the product of Bill Forster with Jim Sorensen. And last year, Bill Forster was diagnosed with Parkinson's. And it's debilitating. Like, he's losing the use of his hands, so he can't create art or handle animals, which is what he does for his day job. And, his main passions are, Iron Maiden and animals and Transformers. And so, it's devastating for somebody to lose their livelihood. So Jim Sorensen set up a GoFundMe with very modest conservative goals, and then the fandom showed up in a big bad way. Smashed through all of their goals. They had a auction on Facebook for some like original art, some autograph things and things like that, and raised quite a lot of money that helped support Bill and kind of help him get on his feet after the diagnosis. That was back in October, and to the point where they kind of actually like kind of soft closed the GoFundMe. It's like, we're okay for now. But with any kind of degenerative and debilitating disease, they've the need has come back up. It continues. So they opened the GoFundMe back up in January. His treatment is going really well. He's currently in a physical therapy program that's going really well. But basically, the type of care and treatment that he's receiving isn't covered by insurance. So Jim opened the GoFundMe back up. And one of the hallmarks of TFcon in Toronto, for folks that have gone, is the huge Make-A-Wish live auction that they do on Friday nights. And it's incredible, the amount of like outpouring of donations and support. And it gets really fun and competitive. And it's there's a palpable energy to it. It's energizing, and it underscores one of the coolest things about the Transformers fan community is that, yeah, we like to buy toys and we like to sell toys and, we like all that other stuff, but like it's about community and charity and generosity, and our fandom just shows up every time. And so attending those Make-A-Wish auctions in Toronto really left an impact on me. So it's something that I'd always hoped that they would be able to replicate at the US TFcons. So Rick, actually, who's not here with us tonight, from what I understand from Jim, proposed the idea to Colin and said, "Hey man, we'd like to do a charity auction, and that it benefits Bill." So, Jim Sorensen got involved very quickly, and things just happened very, very fast. And in the time between when this was getting set up and it was announced on the schedule, Jim has been working with various organizations and artists and folks in the community, collecting donations for this live benefit auction. He was telling me on my show, like Robosyn donated a Bumblebee. He's got a Rise of the Beast Optimus that he's donating, along with one of like the G.I. Joe compendium art books, the phone book one that I'm personally bidding on. You'll have to fight me for it because I really want it. But anyway, there's art pieces from like Ken Christensen and Jack Lawrence and Livio Ramadelli, Casey Collar, and a handful of other folks. Point being, this is going to be a rowdy, fun, charitable event to benefit Bill Forster, and it was something that, as soon as I saw the schedule, because I was curious when my podcaster roundtable was going to be, but then I saw right after the Bill Forster thing, and I was like, oh, I gotta have Jim on my show, and yeah, Friday night we did a thing, and it was terrific. But yeah, it's something I'm really incredibly looking forward to, because again, I like live auctions. I like the spirit of charity and community. It's for a great cause, but also I think there's going to be some really cool stuff in there. And so when Jim was on my show, he had mentioned they are soliciting donations still. So if you are interested in contributing something, whether it's art or toys or whatever, to the live auction, the best way to do that would be to reach out to Jim Sorensen directly. He is on Twitter and Facebook, both at Jim Sorensen. Just he was a part of the tech sector, and he got in really early on getting his name as his at there. But anyway, you could reach out that way, or you can send him an email. And I think the email address is transformersthearc@yahoo.com. Jim gets in on Thursday. So if you're there on Thursday and want to donate stuff, you can connect with him there. Grim Lockamus is donating a couple customized figures as well. And I'm sure there's all kinds of stuff that we don't even know yet. But yeah, so it's like, it's going to be a multi-pronged thing. One, it's a terrific charity, but also there's going to be a lot of cool stuff as well. So that's going to be a terrific celebration of fandom community. And we cap off Friday night with a screening of Transformers 2007. And so yeah, it's going to be close to midnight by the time we get out of that Friday night panel room. We're going to be cooked. But yeah, I'm really excited, one, for the auction, but also I was surprised that they're screening the movie on Friday night, because it's like, well, wouldn't you do that on Saturday? No, my friends, on Saturday they're screening Dark of the Moon. So if you're into live action movies, that's the way to go. And I don't know if I'm talking out of school here or not, so hopefully my TFcon friends won't get mad at me. But like, there was a longstanding tradition of running Transformers the movie, 1986, during TFcons, and until 2019, where I don't know folks that have been to TFcon LA before. There's a Hasbro office like right around the corner from the hotel and convention center, and I've heard the story like third and fourth hand, not first hand, but from what I understand, somebody from Hasbro came across and say, "Hey, this is a nice thing you got going on here. Cool. You're not infringing on anything, but yet you can't show that movie, not without licensing." So that was the last time that in Chicago in 2018 was the last time they showed Transformers the movie. So in Orlando in 2023, they had some of the stunt guys and stunt coordinator folks there. And part of that is they actually licensed Transformers 2007. So they bought rights to exhibit it, and it seems in the off season they've picked up rights to show Dark of the Moon as well. So everything's legit, it's above board. Hasbro's given their Hasbro and Paramount apparently have given their buy off. So I was not expecting to be able to see two different movies at TFcon this year, but that's just some of the stuff.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a lot going on.
Yeah, it's kind of weird with some of those rights type of thing. I know in the past, one of the things that they did with TF Expo is actually kind of partner with a local movie theater to actually to show the movie. But I think that like the thing that's like weird is that as far as like if you're selling tickets to the show and part of it is to be able to see the movie, then there's like royalty cut kind of thing, right? So it's like unless you're offering it to everyone, but there's all kinds of weird rights things, and of course I'm sure the even playing the soundtrack stuff and all that I'm sure is all kind of iffy and what, but that's great that they're able to kind of get the rights to be able to do that. So
yeah, that's awesome. And one thing I kind of glossed over a little bit as we were talking about the live benefit auction for Bill Forster. So Jim Sorensen will be there hosting, but Rick is going to be part of that as well, obviously, doing hosting duties. And I saw something in the chat. I don't know how chronological we're going to go down the schedule. There's a lot there. But Catherine mentions Rick has a panel with the Guinness record champ. And actually that was a question I was going to have for you guys, because like I saw that pop up on the schedule. So on Sunday at, where is it here? I thought it was Sunday. Now I can't see it. 3 p.m.
I think it's the last one. Yeah.
It's the last. Oh, actually, no. I think they've shifted some things since.
Not.
Yeah, because 3 p.m. you've got Guinness World Record holder for the largest Transformers collection, hosted by Rick Alvarez, and so obviously we know Rick is very knowledgeable about various Transformers esoterica. He's the perfect guy for it. But the thing I was wondering as a fan, it's like, is he talking to the guy? Like, is he talking to Mike or? Yes. I figured since we were here on TFYLP, we'd get a preview.
Mike and Rick are admins in a group a different group, a Facebook group that we're all in, or most of us are in, and this has been brewing for a while. The counts were happening back in August, September, and Rick has been hinting at it that it was coming, and now that it's official, it's just it's all out in the open. So yeah, he's definitely going to be talking with Mike directly. They've been friends for a long time, and it's going to be pretty interesting.
Yeah, it'll be a really cool panel. It's kind of a bummer that it's going to be so late in the day on Sunday, because often what people will do, because we have to get back to our jobs, is they'll leave at like 12 p.m. on Sunday because we have to get to our flights. So I have to leave before I can go to any of those afternoon panels, unfortunately, because I have to get back to teach. But at the same time, it'll be a really cool set of panels there in the afternoon. Although it's running at the same time as the Welker Cohen autographs. So
yeah.
One thing I was gonna say though about the Guinness record thing is I feel like in the past we'd always seen those stories about like, oh, Transformers fan has the most G1 Transformers, and it's like the guy's like, I've got 500 or something, and you're like, oh, okay, whatever, right? And so I always
have
hear
500
online,
in my pocket right now.
Yeah, I always hear online, that all of, you guys and Rick and whoever else would complain about this, and I'm like, why don't you guys just actually like put together your collections and like submit it to Guinness, like if you're that concerned. So I'm glad that they actually they finally did that. But I don't know, I always kind of feel the story, you know what that is that they like just don't want to sit down and count it all, right? For
the amount of time he did it in conjunction with a move, Mike did. So as he was moving, the boxes were coming in, and they would open each box and count everything off, take pictures of everything. Rick will talk more about this at the show, and I think we have Mike maybe coming on TFYLP at some point in the future, to discuss this specifically. But yeah, it was in conjunction with a move from one town to another, and it just happened to be a convergence of like circumstances. The toys were all in motion. Just count them as you go. If Rick were to undo his garage and his basement, or if I were to undo the infinity closet, it would take. I started an inventory in 2019 to re-inventory everything, and I'm still not done because it takes forever. And I had a move in the middle of that, so it takes a lot to count everything out, and what counts, what doesn't count, and those rules aren't up to us. That's up to Guinness to specify what they consider an individual piece of Transformers memorabilia, because I can break out 300 sheets of flyers that were handed out at stores in Japan in conjunction with the release of a toy line or a video game or a whatever. Does that count as memorabilia? Oh, maybe. Yeah. It's a lot of stuff.
Right. So. Well, and that's why like Rick, I think when he moved into his house, and I don't even know how many years ago, I mean, he talks about that he's still unpacking, and it's been years and years and years. So
yeah, his basement is you think you have so much space, and I can finally display everything, and he staged stuff in the garage and started unpacking and doing whatever in the basement, and then it was like, oh no. So he has what 2,500 square feet of basement, and he is out of room. It's insanity. I love it.
Well, that's what
Mike,
I always
do us a
think
favor
is funny.
and
oh, sorry.
I was gonna say, Mike, do us a favor, and at that panel, ask Rick specifically if he was to do a Guinness attempt, would he get to count his exclusive pop-out foam transformer slippers or sandals that he got, I believe, from China? I'm really curious if those count as a piece of merchandise.
They're unofficial.
They don't count. Oh no!
I know, it's brutal.
Sad trombone, man.
Well, then ask him if the recent Ross Optimus Prime underwear count. Because that's been something people have been talking about lately. Curious if those count.
Are those
I didn't know there were Optimus ones. Like the stuff I've been seeing folks talk about are the G.I. Joe ones, and they've never been at my RossCons, but RossCon continues. By the way, how about that? Transmetal 2 Megatron is showing up supposedly. I won't believe it till I see it. But I said that about everything else. Like they're like, oh yeah, oh there it is. Oh my gosh, I almost need to buy those just for
these ones are mine. My sister found them and sent them to me. She's like, here you go, Merry Christmas. Here's some drawers for you. I was like, okay.
Oh, that's terrific. But yeah, I remember not to go down a whole RossCon rabbit hole, but when like Cosmos first started showing up, it's like, no, he's not.
Right.
Cosmos at Ross. And I didn't believe it until the day I found one. And even then I was still kind of like, because I found it like on a Friday night on my way home from work. And it's just like, this shouldn't be happening. Very weird, very surreal experience. But I think we were still talking about panels, right?
Sure.
Yeah, because there's it's TFcon. There's any number of things. Let me ask you guys as a group, have any of you experienced a Ron Friedman panel before?
Yes.
It's an experience. So I saw on the schedule, I think this is a recent edition, Saturday at 10 a.m. In fact, it's actually the first panel of the day. bright and early, Q&A with Transformers the movie writer Ron Friedman, and I would imagine he's probably going to spend relatively little time talking about the Transformers the movie. He's probably going to tell his Orson Welles story. He's probably going to tell his Desi Arnaz story, which is not appropriate for children, by the way. Like, that is one of my kind of weird, I don't know, cringy delights, where, listening to Ron Friedman, who is practically Hollywood royalty, old Hollywood royalty, just tell these stories off the cuff, where I'm like, oh, I don't think we could use terms like that anymore. He is delightfully old fashioned and truly one of a kind. But yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun. You got a Q&A with the Transformers War for Cybertron folks, because Frank and Jason are going to be there along with Bill Rogers. One I'm actually kind of excited about is the G1 Q&A with Flint and Buzz and Michael Charles Hill talking about storyboards. And I mean, I've seen Flint a bunch of times. I've seen Buzz a few times. But having Michael Charles Hill there, to talk about the storyboards and things like that, that's a combination I've not seen before. So I'm eager to check that one out. I'm not a cosplay guy, so for me, the cosplay contest is an opportunity to hit the dealer room, because everybody else is going to be in the costume contest. But
I just want to say, Flint is also an opportunity to hear some inappropriate stories. If you're into that sort of thing, he will definitely slip some stories that you're just like, should he really be saying that in public? Oh, wow. I wish I was recording this. So yeah, that's another opportunity to see to hear some once in a lifetime content from a bygone era.
Absolutely. He's like, let me tell you about the time I bailed Chris Latta out of jail.
And that he will. And that's a great one.
For jaywalking.
Yeah, right. Well, like jaywalking, if you know what I mean. And I think you do. But for me, I think, I talked a lot about the Friday programming, but I think the next panel I'm the most excited about is Saturday at 5. That's the Transformers animated deleted scenes and characters. You got Eric Siebelander and Marty Eisenberg and Jim Sorensen, and of course Kian Carlisle as well. So that's for fans of TFA. This is a can't miss thing, because they're going through from what I understand, Kian has recreated deleted from the storyboard scenes and having new animation with new voice work by David Kay as Optimus. And it's having the toy designer and the writer and TFA superfan in Kian, and of course the master archivist Jim Sorensen there. That's my brain can't even process everything that they could possibly go over. So that's going to be incredible. And then, like I said, you cap it off with the screening of Dark of the Moon, and that's Saturday. But yeah, that's man, that TFA thing, that's I've recently started a second podcast with another guy named Mike, pizza enthusiast, Michael Andrews. That's why I asked about the St. Louis style pizza. He's going to get a kick out of that. But anyway, it's Two Mikes, Too Furious, animated Transformers. And we've been going through TFA one episode at a time. And the gimmick of our show, I hadn't seen TFA before. So I'm coming to it as a first time watcher, and he's a serial rewatcher, and he's kind of guiding my way through it. So it's been terrific fun. And it feels like this is a weird, strange convergence of oh my God, I'm in a big, bad TFA headspace. And this is all happening now. It's there've been so many times in my TFcon fandom where I'm just oh, they're doing this programming for me. All the Transformers, the movie related stuff. I'm oh, they did that for me. But yeah, that's going to be a can't miss. We talk about like once in a lifetime type of things. That's going to be something very special with that group of folks with that material in that place at the same time. Incredible stuff.
Yeah, that should be cool.
Yeah. Looking forward to that. And, it looks like Sunday is where they're going to do the majority of the voice actor Q&As. I'm not sure why they didn't spread that out. Well, actually, no, I now that I'm auditing the schedule a little more closely, they're kind of peppered in there. Like we talked about at the top, a lot of TBAs. So we'll see how that shakes out. But yeah, so a lot of G1 voice actor Q&As, and I wonder if some of that is because they're trying to figure out the combinations of like, which groups of folks they can put where and how themed potentially it'll be. But regardless, that'll be cool. There will be a YouTuber panel at 2:00 right before Rick's panel with Mike about the Guinness World Record holding. And then at 4:00, I talked about Ron Friedman and stories as well. Bob Budiansky is doing a panel at 4:00 on Sunday. And I've seen Bob a couple times. I like him. I've gotten commissioned art from him. I've had him autograph stuff. I buy, prints from him and all that. People forget he's an artist. Like people just like assume or associate Bob Budiansky with writing. But anyway, he's an artist in his own right. But the thing that I found with his panel is it's terrific and informative the first time you've seen it. There isn't he'll talk about how the casting of the guy in the toys that made us doesn't look like him, and that it wasn't actually over Thanksgiving weekend. And so he'll kind of point out some of that stuff. But the thing that I love, and I say love by like kind of like I have this weird love-hate thing, is like he'll come out and say like, I'm going to talk about this era of the comic books that I wrote. I don't know anything after I stopped after I stopped writing the Marvel comics. So please don't ask me about that. Cause like, yeah, his Transformers knowledge is in a capsule contained to like, 1983, 84 to like 1988 or whenever he was off the book.
89, the Intergalactic
89.
Wrestling Championship, issue 55.
Oh, that's his last issue? I did not know that. That's a terrific issue. Shout out to Road Handler. That's a fun ass issue. Yeah, it gave me a sense that Road Handler was a bigger character than he was. And I'm like, the hell is this guy? Freaking Micromaster, whatever. I want the guy from the comic. But anyway, he opens it up for Q&A, and inevitably somebody will ask him about the IDW comics, or somebody will ask him about the cartoons. It's like, what do you think about Transformers Armada? And he's like, I don't know anything about that. Well, what do you think of the live action movies? I don't watch those movies. I don't know anything about Transformers after 1989. So it's kind of, again, one of those wicked delights to just like watch that happen. Q&As can be pretty fun sometimes.
Yeah.
And then of course we close out the show with the Q&A with Peter Cullen and Frank Welker. That's going to be at 5:00. And then and then that'll be it. And there'll be a sunset on another TFcon LA. It's, again, like we've said, just like a jam-packed lineup of stuff that no one person has any hope of doing all of.
So let me ask you guys, with the schedule and like whoever's announced, number one, what are you most excited for? And number two, who are you most excited for?
I guess
Anna,
I'll start.
Do you want to go? Or
I'm just going to be completely honest and say, the thing I'm most excited for at any of these cons, as far as the material goes, it's almost always the exclusives. I really like con exclusives. I really like seeing the creativity of weird repaints of third party figures. And, Flip Sides is something I've been wanting as an exclusive for ages. So it's cool to get that. And to be completely honest about who I want to see the most, it's actually my friends, right? Like I am excited to maybe meet a couple of the voice actors for the first time. But if I did it and I only get to see my friends, that's actually more important to me because it just made a lot of really strong relationships because of the Transformers fandom over the last few years. So that's why I'm most excited to see his friends.
So, Mike, how about you?
So who I'm, and I'm glad Anna went first because she stole my answer. I mean, we could talk about toys and autographs and all of the stuff that we're going to get. But yeah, it's friendship. Like I could not buy a damn thing and be totally happy because anytime I'm not doing some of this, and even while I'm doing some of this, it's going to be with friends, hanging out in bars, hanging out in lobbies, hanging out in rooms after hours. I'm there for friendship primarily. But that being said, as far as who I'm most excited to see, I did throw down for a Frank Welker autograph. So I'll be doing that. And then between the combination of Frank as well as Hal Rail and David Mendenhall, the voice of Daniel, to get those 3 autographs on my poster, I think I'll be able to frame it and be done with it. So I might be able to complete that project this time around. But yeah, programming wise, like I said, the panels I already mentioned, especially the live auction benefiting Bill Forster and the animated stuff. I've got too much that I'm looking forward to. I will probably skip the majority of like the voice actor panels. And this is just a me thing. I don't necessarily care for panels that are just straight Q&A where it's just like a panel of voice actors and just a mic and people just I need the podcaster in me needs a little bit of moderation, like a little bit of glue to just kind of keep it going. The unwieldiness of just random questions isn't quite to my taste, but that's all right because that'll be time I could be splashing in the pool or drinking with my friends or hanging out or doing whatever. So I'm going to have a good ass show. I'm really, really excited. Like the last, I don't know, 24, 48 hours, I've just been like buzzy. Just like, I got up early this morning, just the mind just wouldn't stop racing. I'm like, oh my God, it's, 2 more sleeps. We're going to go. Just having like that anxious nervousness and excitement there is really what drives me. So that's some of the stuff I'm looking forward to, but yeah, friendship more than anything else.
Well, I'll be excited to hear some of the stories from you guys when you come back to see what exactly happened at the show, or hit all the highlights and whatnot. But so, well, and I appreciate you guys joining us tonight. It's been a really fun show, kind of going over everything. I hope to wish you guys safe travels, and hope everything goes well for you.
It's Absolutely. Gonna be fun.
And good luck with finding your exclusives and toys, right?
Right. If nothing else, we're going to be in California in March, right? Yep. And I can deal with that. Coming in from Kansas, I can deal with some California in March.
Yep. I come from Seattle where it's always raining, so sunny and 70 degrees is just fine by me.
And I've heard that's what we're in for, and I look forward to it.
Mm-hmm. It was 85 today, and so humid.
Let's say, Anna, it's like 60, 70 degrees right now in Kansas, so
Yeah, I know, but I'm just trying to enjoy this as well.
Okay. Fair enough. So, well,
I'm busy with work. I won't be busy with work there.
There you go. You got that.
There you go. Yep.
So, well, again, thank you guys for joining us. I was going to say one thing for next week. I'm not sure with travel and shows and all that type of thing if we'll have a show next week. We're going to try. But if not, we will make sure to try to have a show or two, because I know there's 1,000 different Transformer reveals that are going to happen, and I'm sure that we're going to want to go over some of the third-party reveals and all that kind of stuff. There's going to be a ton of news coming up, so we're going to try and do what we can to squeeze things in. I just don't know exactly when that's going to be. So, but, well, thanks, guys, again. And, again, have fun at the show. We'll see everyone next week.
Well, thanks a lot for having me. We appreciate it. And until next time, make good choices.
Yeah. Oh, and then where can we reach you, Mike, on the socials?
Oh, sure. Yeah. No. We already litigated the weird spelling of my name, but you can find Mike Seibert Radio Podcast everywhere you find TFYLP. Just type in my name. Seibert is the spelling. I've also got a YouTube channel and all of those other places. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, all with that same spelling. Or at this point, since the hashtag is pretty ripe, if you just put in TFcon into Twitter, you'll probably see me there. Because I've been using that pretty liberally. But yeah, you can also, if Transformers Animated is your bag, you can also check out 2 Mikes 2 Furious Animated Transformers on all of the other socials, 2 Mikes 2 Furious with the number 2, and on all of your favorite podcast apps as well. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to hang out with you guys. This was an absolute blast. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Glad we were able to make that happen.
Yeah, love it.
There you go. So before the show and everything. So, all right. Well, thanks everyone, and hopefully see everyone next week.